Hey all. So this is going to be basically the episode 0.5 of the miniseries I've started. If you're confused at what this is, go watch this video. This explains the challenge I'm doing in better detail, and is a good way to learn why I'm doing this in the first place. Those looking for a quick synopsis, my goal is to beat at least one half of the new apocalyptic shadow coming out without a fully meta team. If I can get 3,300 points with this team by the end of the 40 days, then that's a win. The new apocalyptic shadow hasn't actually released yet, so I'm sure many of you are wondering why I'm already doing another video for the series. Well, I wanted to make this video as essentially the roadmap, or kinda like a staging ground, for the challenge now that a bit more has been figured out. It's been a decent few days since that video was uploaded, and I've taken in a lot of feedback from the comments, my Discord members, and even some friends of mine who play the game. First of all, thank you so much to all of you who contributed to the discussion, giving ideas or things you think would be fun with what was available. Also, shout out to some of y'all who found the video and immediately proved my point about toxicity and elitism within this community. Wild how that works. Anyway, so today's video is gonna go over a few updates since the initial video and to go over the dramatic reveal of who we'll be using in the challenge. While nothing is set in stone, and I am gonna make this clear multiple times, considering we have very few options, it really wasn't much of a debate and this feels like a good route to go down. Real quick, before we get into the updates, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing down below. Over 90% of my audience isn't, so as a small channel, it would mean a lot. I'll be introducing channel memberships soon, that will have fun benefits as well, so stay tuned for that if you would like to support the channel. Alright, let's get back into it. So the first update I want to make note of is about Acheron. I made mention of it in the last video that I wasn't sure how she should really be counted. I don't have Acheron's signature, and I didn't plan on pulling for it either as I wanted Casterus. I also don't have any Eidolons for Acheron, which would usually enhance her a great deal. Last but not least, I don't have Jiao Cho, who is her best teammate. This ultimately makes her a much weaker character, even if most people wouldn't think so. She was released around a year ago at the time of this video, and has been surpassed by many DPS if you aren't willing to invest purely in her, which I wasn't as many people saw. I decided to get characters like Fei Xiao, Aglaya, and it just so happened that the Firefly Break team contained quite a few of my favorite characters, so I focused more on that. All in all, I really do not think Acheron with what's currently on my account is worth using in a lot of cases. But just to make sure, she's getting outright banned. Acheron is still a pretty strong character overall, and a perfectly good team in Pela, Fuger Tribby, and Gallagher for debuffs is right there waiting to be used. Many people brought this up in the comments, and it was a pretty popular suggestion, shockingly, with not many people actually advocating for the ban. However, with how easy this was going to be to decide on, I felt like just running to another formerly overpowered character wasn't quite as fun. Obviously, that's every character in this game to some degree, but I'm sure as we all know, Acheron was a different breed when she came out. Again, she's not quite at that power level after not investing in her team, and a hilarious amount of HP inflation. But regardless, Acheron is officially banned going forward. In terms of some other updates about the challenge, I'm still currently unsure about the score of 3,300 actually. I realized when making my last video that from my last scores, only one was above 3,300 and it was the Aglaya team. While I definitely used a suboptimal team against the Banana Advisor boss, that definitely still made things a bit concerning as to how high I could actually get this score. This is less of an update, I suppose, but more of a reminder. There is no guarantee about actually hitting that score, and it's more so something I want to attempt. Truthfully, I actually have no clue if it's going to be fully possible, so keep that in mind if I have to change the expectations at some point. The expectations changing, however, does go both ways. My viewers have brought up great teams to me and are very confident about completing this challenge. This also means that many are worried about the challenge being too short and not actually that hard to complete. We'll talk about this more when we talk about the character I'll be using, but as a quick spoiler, I have selected the character I want to use, and actually a backup character as well if we do end up beating the challenge in what I feel is a pretty insignificant amount of time. If that happens, we will end up using another DPS character as the main carry to make it more of a challenge. Whether you think the character is actually stronger or not, doing this with two characters should be plenty of content for y'all. So now we're going to get into some less updatey things, unfortunately, and more so just some comments and some commentary on what was going on in the video. Next thing I want to discuss is something that popped up a bit. Quite a few people wanted all the good supports banned, and I gotta shoot it with you straight, guys. I don't agree in the slightest. First and foremost, I would like to at least have some sort of fun and some avenue for this to be more possible since I'm only giving myself a month after all. Second, and more importantly, is that really a good representation of the game and people's accounts? I personally don't think so. A lot of players have one of two issues from what I've learned. People either pull too many damage dealers or pull too many supports. People hardly ever have the problem of pulling too many healers, and if you're pulling a mix, you're probably just building your characters poorly. A lot of people have at least one good support lying around, so I feel like this shouldn't be a huge problem in the grand scheme of things. Like, I hate to turn this into a rant a bit, but it's not like players just aren't pulling. That is never the issue, and getting your account out of a rough spot can be accomplished usually by pulling one decent support. Oh, but what if you don't like any of the support designs? My brother in Christ, I think the Harmony and the Amplifier characters in this game across the board have some of the best designs in the game. Sunday, Robin, Ron May, Sparkle, okay, maybe not Sparkle, fuck Sparkle, and then even characters like Zhao Cho. There has to be at least one character people will like in that bunch in my opinion. How well it actually works with your account can vary, but most of these characters are almost universally helpful. So yes, while I understand that using new supports can be considered a bit unfair to some, I don't think it's so egregious that it shouldn't be counted at all. Next up is once again not an update, but a quick talking point I saw. I understand the frustration many people have about power creep, and that's why I'm doing this challenge. However, I truly do not agree that a team of completely 4-stars with mid-level investment should be able to clear anything in the game. It's not me siding with big corporation, but I want to make a full video about this to explain this thought that I'm gonna say. We are playing a AAA game for free. The only thing you pay for is what you want to pay for. Good investment can carry you far as well, despite my arguments in the past. Not to mention, if you're willing to sink your time in, a lot of characters can still perform well. And even then, the end game of this game is optional. A lot of characters from the last update can still beat everything in the story pretty easily. They release new strong characters because that's the way for them to make more revenue, which I understand. If you want a game where every character will be the same power level, play a normal RPG like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, which are amazing. If you want to make the argument about former 5-stars, then yes, I'm absolutely willing to hear you out. Those are characters that you still spent money on. That is different. But 4-stars, characters who are meant to be more available for the user and can often be gotten for free, yeah, I just don't agree. A full video might come out about this specific topic at a later point, but this one point I saw and I really had to talk about it. Alright, so now that me having to defend my very life essence and sanity from people on the internet is done, that was a joke. Most of those comments bringing these things up were actually quite polite. We can finally get to what you all came here to see. What team will I be using for the upcoming challenge? Well, everything is still liable to change considering things can go painfully wrong in a moment's notice, but right now, I think the team option is pretty good for what I can work with. The initial team we will be working with will consist of Clara, Remembrance MC, Tribby, and either Fushuan or Gallagher. The sustain slot will kind of vary. If this team proves to be too easy somehow, our backup option is the original Break Queen, Shui. I know a lot of people suggested Serval, as well as even some Jing Liu love, amongst many other characters, but I wanted to explain why I chose what I chose. First of all, Clara was one of the highest suggested characters when looking through the comments on that video. People love the small child, giant mech combo. Secondly, I think Clara serves as a pretty good representation of DPS. She's a 5-star, yes, but she's also a standard banner character who has never been altered in any way. She is simply the same character she always has been, although some new characters have been able to make her better over time. Shout out to Robin. Clara being a standard banner character also means everyone has the opportunity to get her, especially for those people who never used their free 5-star standard selector, or the gift of the express standard 5-star they gave out a few updates ago. I'm pretty sure that doesn't expire until right now, I think. There have definitely been plenty of opportunities to get her, so I feel pretty justified in using her for this. Lastly, and probably the biggest reason, I've never actually used Clara. As we saw in my last video, and you'll see again soon, my Clara is unbuilt. Her traces are non-existent, I don't have any of the physical relics for her. although the poet set is probably the best for her now. And she's even made it to E1 without ever sniffing level 80. This is a character who, while not absolutely withstanding power creep, has managed against it fairly well all things considered, and is commonly liked among many players. She also possesses a not often seen mechanic that has stood the test of time in its own way with the counterplay style. All in all, Clara is a fun, unique character, who I feel would be a fun character to use for this without being too broken. We now get into the secondary choice, Shui. Truthfully, I think Shui might have been the most requested character in that entire comment section. People constantly go to bat for Shui, and I really do understand it. She's a unique character with one of the most diverse movesets in Star Rail history. On top of this, I feel she's simply underrated as a character, since she doesn't have much chance to shine in the story. While I understand people may much more prefer Shui, as she's a 4-star, so the challenge might feel more authentic, or they just like her more and want to see her represented, I figured after talking with my community that Clara would probably be a better character to use with not only my limited time, but also my limited skill. Reminder, I'm not great at this game. I'm impatient, and like 5 different people got on my ass about action value. Like, my lord, I didn't realize it was that big a deal, I'm sorry! Anyway, but yes, so while I like Shui too, and think a similar-ish team would work for her, she will be the second option if the challenge ends up not taking too long. So now, after this little talk, let's go back to the unscripted view of my account, where I can show you the progress on these characters, and give you a better idea of what we're working with. Hey, what's up? It's your boy, Skinny P. Why did I choose to do that as the... It's midnight when I'm recording this. Anyway, don't worry about it. So, let's head on over to Clara. So as we can see, y'all like attack boots? I don't know why those are there, genuinely. So looking at Clara here, her traces are genuinely in no man's land. The only thing we have done is the basic attack trace. We have level 3 of her talent, and we have one of her major traces, which is just when attacked, this unit has a 35% fixed chance to dispel a debuff. That's so bad. That's actually so bad. Nothing else is unlocked. Reminder, this was in the early days of Star Rail, so as we can see, Clara has no crit traces at all. That's not good. Now let's go over to Light Cone. I don't really have a great choice here. My best choice is probably going to be on the Fall of an Aeon. Or I guess technically we can also do Ninja Record Sound Hunt. That is also an option. Funnily enough, we actually have a great Light Cone for Shui if I wanted to end up using her, which is Indelible Promise. Increases the wearer's break effect by 56, and when the wearer uses their ultimate, increases crit rate by 30. That's amazing. And then, the only other thing of note with Clara is we do have E1 Clara, so using skill will not remove marks of counter on the enemy, and I was told that this is basically essential to make Clara a playable unit nowadays. I also know that E2 is incredibly helpful, but hey, I guess it's good that I don't have E2. I haven't been losing 50-50s lately, I guess. Sure, why not? Even though I lost one not long ago, but oh well. So that's the state of Clara currently. And yeah. Our saving grace here alongside her, of course, is going to be Tribby and RMC. This is what my current Tribby build is looking like. We have the full Poet set, then we have Tribby's Light Cone, so we're sitting at 5,300 HP, we have 51% crit rate, which will shoot up to like 80-something in battle, and 217 crit damage. Not bad overall. Her traces are not fully complete yet, but they're pretty close to where they need to be. So that's where Tribby's at, and then let's scroll over to RMC. RMC is sitting at 194 crit damage, 164 speed with the Herta Light Cone. I don't want to talk about the traces. I really don't want to talk about the traces, actually. I don't want to talk about it, man. I was trying to build a Goliath, then Casterus, then it's rough. It's a rough life out here. Anyway, so right now, that's what we're kind of working with in the case of all these guys. I will show off the sustains real quick. Fuxuan, 138 speed, 1800 defense, 6800 HP. That's really all you need to know, and she also has energy regen rope. As for Gallagher, we're sitting at 162 speed, 4600 HP, and break effect is 145. So that's where we're working at with these guys, and now let's go over to our other option in Shui Yi, because I'm sure many of you will still be curious about this. So she can at least make it to level 70. I don't quite have enough to upgrade her all the way, but that's only 7 more. That's like 2 runs of that, so that's not too bad. Her traces are only in a better spot because she's E6. Yeah, this isn't great. Yeah. Anyway, and then again, we have E6, so not bad. That's kind of where we're at with these characters. And yeah, honestly, I think this is going to be possible. The one thing is, I'm going to have to get lucky with relics, and that is purely because I'm going to need to try and min-max these as much as humanly possible, because the traces just aren't as helpful. The traces straight up are not as helpful nowadays. The traces nowadays are way more helpful than the traces of early game characters. Because once again, not a single sight of crit rate or crit damage, physical damage boost, attack, and HP. That's it. That is really, really rough, so I'm gonna have to hyper prioritize getting a lot of frickin' crit rate. Then I'm gonna need the Poet set to do the rest, and then on top of that, I'm still gonna need an immense amount of crit damage. It's definitely a hard spot to be in, just because this is how older characters are, so you have to invest in them significantly more. But still, I think it's possible. I think we have a decent plan. I have a lot of people who are able to help me with just planning out and, you know, not being a complete moron. So I am really excited for this. I hope you guys are too. And yeah, so let's cut back to the end of the script. Thanks, me. With that done, at the end of the video here, there's one last thing I want to talk about briefly. Some people were talking about MOC and pure fiction in the comments, not even asking me to do them, but just making mention of the other modes. I want to say, I picked Apocalyptic Shadow simply because it was the next one that was going to reset, but there are 2 other endgame modes that this challenge could apply to. While I'm unsure how this video series will actually do, I think regardless, I really don't want to apply it to any other endgame mode. As previously mentioned on this channel, I hate pure fiction. It's my least favorite mode, and I don't like doing it even with good characters. As for MOC, I think it's probably the least forgiving endgame mode at this point in time. There are plenty of people who still manage to zeal a zero cycle and all that good stuff, and you know what? I get it. That's fair. Those are good players who worked hard to achieve it. This doesn't change the fact this mode has been deeply infuriating for many players, and they've shown no intention of lowering the difficulty in any way to be more accommodating. I think it's more important to demonstrate what you can succeed at in this game than getting stuck on thinking you need to finish MOC 12. I know that kinda little blurb didn't explain my thinking all too well, but the other 2 game modes just aren't as fit for this challenge, and I think APOC has the highest chance of being more forgiving for players who are struggling. That's mainly what I want to focus on. That's what this video is going to be for, and that's going to be the grand goal, and I think that's a good way to go about this. With that said, that's everything I wanted to talk about today. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you have any thoughts or comments on these updates, leave them down below and I'll read them soon. The first stream for this challenge will be the first Monday or Wednesday after the new Apocalyptic Shadow comes out, and the first video will come out soon afterward. Look forward to that, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!